All right, let's get right into it. You hear the word metaverse thrown around all the time, right? But what if I told you its first real frontiers are already here? They're being explored right now. We're talking about social VR platforms, these digital worlds where the biggest question isn't just what can I do here? It's who gets to build this place? And that question is at the heart of a massive battle shaping these new realities as we speak.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you could step into a universe that's built from the ground up entirely by the people who actually live there? Every single avatar, every crazy building, every wild experience, it's not made by some big company. It's made by its users. And this isn't some far-off sci-fi dream. Nope. This is the core promise that's fueling the biggest social VR platforms that exist right now. And you know what? That promise is incredibly powerful. As one Reddit user, Jack the Fox Otter, put it, the ability to just create whatever pops into your head right there on the spot, it's addictive. Seriously addictive. That right there, that's the secret sauce. It's what gets people hooked, giving them the tools to build their wildest dreams. But, and this is a huge but, all that freedom, it definitely comes at a price. So to really get a grip on this battle, we've got to look at the three big contenders in this space. Each one represents a completely different philosophy, a different vision for how a virtual world should be built, and maybe more importantly, who should hold the power. Okay, so first, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. When we say social VR, what we're really talking about are these massive online spaces where you, as a custom avatar, can just jump into thousands of different worlds all built by other users. You're hanging out with people from literally all over the planet. It's kind of like the digital Wild West, for real. This table really breaks down the core DNA of each platform. So, over on one end, you've got the big one, VR chat. It's massive, it's chaotic, it's where anything and everything happens. The catch? If you want to build something, you've got to learn some pretty serious external tools like the Unity game engine. Then you got Resonate. Think of it as a smaller, more artisanal option. The community is super tight, really creative, and its big selling point is that you can build and code inside the game itself, together with other people. And then, all the way on the other end of the spectrum is Meta's Horizon Worlds. This is the big corporate play. They're aiming for a super polished, user-friendly experience, but a lot of people have called it a hollow corporate shell. Ouch. And that right there brings us to the first giant hurdle that every single one of these platforms has to face. It's the people problem. How do you manage the messy, unpredictable reality of humans being, well, human? Yeah, because that beautiful dream of a perfect digital utopia, it tends to smash right into the wall of human nature. When you give literally everyone a voice and a virtual body with total freedom, well, it turns out not everyone uses them for good. And this is where we have to talk about the really dark side of all that freedom. The big platforms, especially Horizon Worlds and VR Chat, have been hit with some truly awful stuff. We're talking about reports of virtual groping, serious concerns about underage users and the predators that follow them, and even horrifying incidents described as virtual gang rape. This level of toxic behavior is a massive and frankly unacceptable challenge for any platform trying to build a safe environment. So this all leads to the million-dollar question. Who's supposed to fix this? A lot of users are making a really important point. They're saying, look, giving me a block button is just self-defense. That's on me. But that's totally different from the platform's job, their responsibility to actually moderate their space and enforce their own rules. You can't just throw your hands up and say, well, just block them, and act like the problem is solved. And this is why the vibe of the community and its size is so incredibly critical. Listen to this user talking about Resonate. They say it feels like VRC Chat did way back in 2016. You know, more tight-knit, friendly, and not just filled with screaming kids and toxicity. It's a perfect example of what happens when these places get huge. The bigger you get, the harder it is to keep that positive, creative culture alive. Okay, so we've talked about the social side. Let's switch gears a bit. What about the people who are actually building all this stuff, the creators? What's life like for them? Well, first off, let's just be clear about the stakes here. We're talking about big, big money. The whole market for these user-generated content platforms, it's projected to hit over $64 billion by 2034. That's billion with a B. So, yeah, there's a massive financial incentive for these companies to get this right. But despite all that money flying around, the reality for a lot of creators is, well, it's pretty bleak. One developer on Reddit put it perfectly. They called the landscape an absolute desolate graveyard of empty worlds. Can you imagine? You pour your heart and soul, hundreds of hours, into building something amazing. And then, crickets. Nobody ever sees it. So what makes it so tough? Well, let's take a platform like VRChat. The list of challenges is just nuts. First, you have to master these super complex, sometimes painful development tools that aren't even in the game. Then you have to make sure your world actually works on the standalone Quest headset, because that's what most people are using. After that, you gotta remember, this isn't just a game. It has to be a social space people want to hang out in. And even if you nail all of that, you still face the biggest challenge of all, just getting noticed in an ocean of other creations.
And you might think, okay, but what if you have a giant corporation like Meta backing you? Well, turns out that's no guarantee either. Just look at Horizon Worlds. It had a big launch, hit 300,000 users, but just a few months later, that number had already dropped below 200,000. Leaked internal reports showed the real problem. Most users would try it once and then just never come back. And if people don't stick around, your creators have no audience to build for. So we've got social problems, we've got creator problems. Where does all of this lead? What's the fundamental choice that's going to define the future of these virtual worlds?
When you boil it all down, it really comes down to this one big trade-off. On one side, you have the path of freedom. That's the world of VRChat and Resonate. You get limitless creative power, but the trade-off is that it can be janky, chaotic, and pretty unpolished. On the other side is the polished path. That's Horizon Worlds. It's way more accessible, more controlled, cleaner. But you're living in a world that's shaped by a corporate agenda, not by the users themselves.
So let's wrap this up. Here's the bottom line. The whole social VR scene is basically a tug-of-war between wild, user-driven chaos and slick corporate polish. Next, community is everything. The culture of a platform isn't just a side thing. It can literally make or break the entire experience. For creators, life is tough. Building these worlds is hard enough, but getting people to actually visit them is the real mountain to climb. And finally, don't forget, even with all these messy problems, the financial engine behind all this, it's just getting started. And that leaves us, all of us, with a really big question to think about. This isn't just for developers, it's for anyone who might one day step into one of these worlds. What do we actually value more? Do we want the messy, chaotic, sometimes even dangerous freedom to create literally anything we can imagine? Or do we prefer a safe, predictable, polished reality that someone else builds for us?